Right. So I want to briefly talk about Insidious.
Okay.
Because in our recent sort of horror discussions, we've been slagging off sort of mainstream horror films a lot. And, the
Yeah.
ones that sort of particularly aimed at teenagers that are all about, like, jump scares and going, boo, ah. And, like,
Yeah.
I think we mentioned, do we mention The Conjuring or just hint at it?
Yeah. I've talked about The Conjuring. Well,
Yeah.
possibly. I can't remember if we talked about it specifically, but I've seen that film and I don't like it.
Yeah. But yeah, we were talking about, like, there's some of those films which I consider to be like, oh, they're actually quite good for that sort of subgenre of horror, which we've been about. So I
Yeah.
thought I'd go and watch Insidious, which is one of the ones that's been talked about by people I respect as being good, and see what it's like. And to be fair, it's got a reasonable sort of backing behind it. So it's directed by James Wan, who did Saw, the first one,
Okay.
which I don't know if you've seen, but it's quite a good
I
film.
have seen Saw, the first one.
Yeah.
Saw the first Saw, yeah.
You've seen Saw? That's not Saw.
Yeah, I saw Saw.
But yeah, I mean,
It
Saw.
was Saw C. Sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
Saw is basically like Discount 7, and Seven's fantastic. So I mean, Discount 7 is still a solid film. So yeah, so it's directed by James Wan. It's also written by Lee Wanell. I feel like I'm almost certainly pronouncing that wrong, but that's the guy who directed Invisible Man, the new one,
Right.
and
Okay.
also had a hand in Saw. I think he wrote Saw as well.
Okay.
But yeah, so two competent sort of modern horror director writers behind it, and it's not a bad film. So basically, the plot is there's this mother and father. They move into a new house. They've got their young children, and there's some sort of like mild items are going missing, and then the child sort of falls off a ladder in the attic and ends up in a coma for months, and the doctors can't work out why he's in a coma because he should be fine, but he is completely unresponsive. But then they start to be plagued by hauntings in this new house. There's like voices heard over the baby monitors. They see figures appearing and walking through the house and slamming doors and stuff. And eventually, like, right, this house is haunted. We're moving to a new house. The hauntings follow them to the new house. And they start to realise that the kid is sort of under threat of being possessed by some kind of demon from another plane. And it's sort of, I don't think this is a spoiler, but it gets into the idea of astral projection. And the idea is that the kid is basically like astral projected so hard out of his body that he's lost. And his body's like this empty vessel which a demon's now trying to claim for itself. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a modern Exorcist, I guess, but it's a bit roundabout about it. Yeah, okay, so obviously our discussion is mainly about like the horror and like the jump scares. So I'll start with that. It's actually it's pretty restrained in that respect. Actually, it's got some jump scares, but they're quite subtle. Like, so if you think about in The Invisible Man with the when she's in the attic and we think he's there and she throws the paint and he's there, but then the music, like the score just peaks and it really uncomfortably. Yeah. There's nothing quite as egregious as that. There is, in fact, there's actually quite a nice one with like, so she's like walking around landing. She's heard things. She thinks, there's something about, and she looks into the baby's room. And there's a dark figure standing behind the like crib, with like the sort of curtain, which is like semi-transparent, is in front of it. To the point that I didn't notice it at first, and then the fact that it was on screen for a while, when I finally I suddenly realised was actually really good, and it didn't go. Okay, fine. It went wham a little bit, which is like, oh, am I supposed to be seeing something? Oh shit, it's there. Which in itself was quite good. And it's an aspect of horror I never thought of. Like, obviously when you have a jump scare, it's normally quite obvious what you're supposed to be jumping at. But imagine, like in video games when you hear the attack music and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that. And that's actually an underrated source of horror of like, wham. Wait, what? What have I not noticed? And when you see it and you're like, well, shit, I'm really unobservant. I'd be dead.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, so there's some of that. Unfortunately, that gets less good as it goes on. There's a thing about in horror, like, the more you see of a creature, the less scary it's going to be because you can see it. And that's a lesson I think Insidious needs to learn because it's, well... So its main demon looks like Darth Maul. He's just a figure. He's a figure in black, and his head's like painted black, except for a massive red splotch in the front of his face, and he looks a bit
Right.
angry. It's Darth Maul, and
You
not
look
only
a little bit angry.
not only is it Darth Maul, he appears frequently in in full frame, in full focus throughout like the last 20 minutes of the film. So he's not. It just isn't scary because he looks like Darth Maul, and we see him so clearly, and it's like, come on, just that's what a lot of the horror of good horror films, like how fleetingly we see it, how we're not entirely sure what we even saw half the time.
The unseen figure.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Actually, talking of figures, so there's there's a really great sequence towards the end of basically, is this a spoiler? I don't know. Okay, fine. If you care about Insidious, this is it's a mild spoiler. It's not a massively spoiler-y film, but
Also, that movie came out like a million years ago.
yeah, it's like 10 years old. It's fine, but spoilers if you care. But yeah, so it's like the father is actually the reason the kid's so good at astral projecting is the father is like a savant of astral projection, and so like the final set piece of the film is like the father's what?
I said, for fuck's sake. Why is it that they're always just some fucking hippie bullshit about the film?
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, there's a sort of inherent thing with horror and the supernatural. You sort of got to buy into it. And to be fair, there's a whole thing, because they bring in these paranormal investigators, and the husband's like, "This is bullshit. Get out of my house." And then, but yeah.
But he's a fucking wizard, so it's fine.
I mean, the reason why I spoiled it is because it's a twist that like, oh, your mother hid it from you, but you're actually like the king of astral projection. That's why your kid's so good. But yes, but there's this whole end sequence. Basically, he astral projects and he goes through this. It's called the further, like it's this dimension between dimensions to find the kid and bring him back. Yeah. And meanwhile, the demons are sort of there, and that's quite good. It gets into really, well, I mean, it could be quite interesting visually. It's not bad. It's just not very creative. Case in point, besides Darth Maul, the main creatures are just people, like just normal. Right. I mean, they're dressed in like Victorian era clothing, maybe Edwardian. And they appear like suddenly and they smile, but otherwise they're not that creepy. And we see a lot of them in full focus, fully in frame, and it's like, am I supposed to be scared of you? Also, not clear who they are, why they're relevant, because there's this ongoing thing about not ongoing. It's revealed that because the father's got no photo of himself as a boy, and his mother reveals it's because every time I took a photo of you, there was this creepy woman in the background, and every time I took a photo, she got closer, so I just stopped doing it. And it's something to do with astral projection, like a demon trying to get him. This, by the way, is never really properly explained beyond that.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, well, are the creepy women in the astral plane, are they the same women? They don't look anything like the women. Are they related? Who are these people? And that's never explained. And yeah, there's a point of horror of you don't explain things because the horror is the unknown. But there's a difference between horror of the unknown and horror of what the hell is going on. I have no concept of what the plot you're trying to get at is here, which I think is a big problem with it. And similarly, its ending is very sort of, it's sudden, and it's weird because it has a nice bit of closure to it, and then it's sort of, I guess it was going for a sequel hook, and there are 3 sequels, so, I don't know, but it then ruins any closure it had by just ending really unsatisfyingly. But yeah.
Well, I feel like I'll avoid that like the plague.
Well, I mean, it's not a bad film. It was quite enjoyable, and again, I was impressed with how competent the horror was. I mean, it never scared me. It at most mildly startled me.
Okay.
But, I mean that's quite a fatal flaw of horror, to be honest, to not scare me. But to be fair, compared to other mainstream horror, it probably is better than a lot of it. It's not great,
right?
But, yeah. Also, there's this weird thing where so the mother's set up to be protagonist. She's the first character we see. We spend the whole first half of the film is the mother looking after her kids and being oh, why is all this weird shit happening in my house? And it's all from her perspective. And the father's distant, not looking after the kids properly. He's staying late at work, specifically not to have to deal with this shit at home. And the whole first hour of this 100-minute film is all from the mum's perspective, and she is the main character. And then the climax of the film is entirely about the father doing it. And she just sits there giving words of encouragement. And it's how have you completely fucked up your protagonist? You had a protagonist. She was a good protagonist. She's had build-up. The father's a side character. Why is he doing the main end bit? Have you not done screenwriting? Like Lee Wanell, I mean, Invisible Man wasn't great, but I mean, you're a
Well,
decent
yeah.
writer. You clearly got some knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
Saul was great, and he wrote that.
Speaking of like creatures, and the seeing too much of it and all that, right? Um, so in Stranger Things, like in the first series, in the first series, to be fair, you don't see much of the Demigorgon, but in the last few episodes, you see it a lot, and you do. There is, that you see it in the light, in focus,
Yeah.
and that it never lost its tension for me. I was never not scared of the Demigorgon because I was like, oh, fuck. I think that might be creature design as well because the Demigorgon looks really scary
Was that
and
season
looks so.
two, or
No,
are you
that's
talking
season one. I'm talking
Oh
about.
wait, oh, it's season one specific. Okay. Well, I was
Yeah,
gonna. Well,
because in season 2 and 3 is a different thing. But
that's what I was gonna say. But yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but
Well,
specifically in season 1, and I think I never think it loses its touch. Like, to be fair, you never see like a full picture of it until episode 6 or 5 or 6 or something like that. You always either see, the back of it, just its face, it run across, something
we see
like
like
that.
the really like poor quality photo in the in the night from yeah.
But then you get the bit where 11 goes in the tank and she taps it on the shoulder. And and that's all very well lit because there's nothing else to distract you from just seeing it.
Yeah.
But then it's still really scary, I think. And then when it shows up to the buyer's house, and Nancy and Will fight it again, it's still really scary there.
Yeah. Well, so
I think that must be creature design then, because it shows you just as much as you see it all the time, but it's still a scary thing because I think it's so non-human.
well, look, my question to that is, were you scared of the Demigorgon though? Because I was never scared by it.
You're not scared, but you're
that's
not
but
scared
that's,
the way like, oh, I'm shaking or whatever. But you're I don't know what's the word to put.
well, I'd say that's more tension. Like no
Yeah.
matter what, if you see your creature, you still feel tension if your protagonists are in danger, and as long as they've been set up correctly, do you actually care for them? But I think, I mean, the Demogorgon doesn't. I don't tremble at night thinking about the Demogorgon. I don't turn off the lights in my room and be like, nope, shit, turning it back on. Unlike
Which
something,
you do about SCP-173, despite it being like a fucking concrete dildo.
Yep. I mean, but the point of that is like the idea. That plays on fears of like I have fears of being like pursued and also being defenseless. Which I think the containment breach the game plays into a lot of, which is why it has an effect on me. But I mean, that's the other thing is, I mean, if we're going to go on a slight tangent about containment breach, I mean, so much of that game is so dark, and that's the fear of a dark, and then you do half glimpse things. I mean, the other thing with containment breach is the graphics are poorly anyway, so.
Yeah, they're awful.
But anyway, I mean, back to films. I mean, the main thing is, like, I think the if you think about, let's say like an Alien. I mean, Alien's a weird example because like, and playing Alien Isolation recently has reinforced this. I actually. The design of the creature is so good that I don't feel scared by it because every time I see him, I'm like, wow, look at that detail.
Right.
But I still feel tense, and like my first time watching Alien was incredibly tense because it's masterfully done, and we see the great thing about Alien, and this works in Isolation as well, is like you never quite know where the alien is or when it's going to pop up next, unless you know the film as well as I do. But like and that's a big part of the like not seeing the whole thing about not seeing a creature clearly in a film is twofold. It's firstly you don't know where it is at any given moment, and B, you don't know what it looks like. So, but yeah, I mean, creature design is certainly part of it.
Point there. Yeah,
I think definitely there was an opportunity missed in having just like, oh, it's a load of people and with white face makeup and Victorian clothes. Ooh.
That lack of budget, maybe.
I don't think so because it seems too deliberate, and I'd like. Oh, okay. So there's some really the paranormal investigator stuff is actually probably the best of Insidious. Like they come around and do the house and like all this weird pseudoscience shenanigans, and it's quite fun. And it's quite a good scene where she's like communicating with like through the conscious body trying to reach from the astral plane. and basically she mutters indistinctly, and the guy with her on the team basically sketches what she says, and like the mother comes and looks at the picture, and he's sketching furiously away, and there's this giant dark shadowy demon like over the bed, and it looks like something from the Babadook, which you haven't seen yet, but you will get a reference in a few weeks' time. But like it's this really great moment, like, oh holy shit, that's there, we can't see it, it's terrifying. And then we see it's Darth Maul, and he looks nothing like it. He's just a dude in red face makeup. And it's like, why are you so unsatisfying? And there's a bit where he's like climbing across the wall like Spider-Man. It's like, what are you doing? Why can't you come up with a better creature design when you had a better one in the film?
Oh, God.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, yeah. So last point, I'm going to close this out in Insidious. But, like, so yeah, the seance scenes are really good. There's a specific scene where they're doing, like, a seance to communicate with the boy. And it's like, I mean, it's what you normally expect. They're sitting around a table sort of holding hands, like, can you hear me? But so the seance lady's got this, like, gas mask on, and she's like, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying, because it's, like, I have to speak in this really low tone. But, this guy will write it down. He can hear what I'm saying with headphones, and he'll transcribe it as I go. Which is quite an interesting thing, because there's this delay between stuff happening and then seeing what the result is. And it's like, but also they've got a camera rigged up, and it will trigger on any change in pressure or like, ultraviolet light or things like that. So there's great tension of like, we see them doing a seance and it's like nothing seems to be happening. And then the camera will just flash and you're like, well shit, something's happened. We can't see what it is, but something is happening on the astral plane around us. There is it's like I was saying the other week about, I can't remember what it was now. I think we were talking about cosmic horror, but like the idea of like, you're forming a negative image of a creature, not by seeing it, by seeing its impact on the world, by seeing the sort of its interactions with the world. We build up an image of what it is and where it is, and that's quite a good example because we see this camera flashing in reaction to things that are going on that this woman's saying, and it's like that, and that creates that sort of idea of like, without seeing the creature, of being like this constant presence that's all around us and we can't see and can't do anything about, and that's good horror. So that was a good scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just Googled Insidious, and one of the first search results is Insidious Darth Maul.
Yeah, I imagine it is it's probably quite a common concern because it looks so much like it.
I also then looked at the images, and the fucking monster in it looks so completely goofy.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't look scary, does he? He looks like a discount Darth Maul cosplay. It's like, that's the perfect summation, isn't it?
But you know how in Lord of the Rings, because of the prosthetics, half of the orcs couldn't close their mouths?
I did not know about that, but that's brilliant, yeah.
It looks like that.
There is a jump scare moment where he sort of, the first time he appears, and he's sort of just in the background, which is a bit of a blah moment, but But I mean, also in that, his mouth just gave here, he's like, hello. I laughed at that.
It looks like they've told him to be like, all right, you've got pointy teeth. We need to show off the pointy teeth.
Yeah. It does just look like a Halloween costume. Someone's going, scary.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, so, all right.
It's got Patrick Wilson in it, though. He's a cool dude.
Oh, yeah, I think that's the dad in it, I believe. Yeah. Right, final point, and I think this is a nice way to close it out. I have a thing where once I watch a film, I go on Letterboxd and see what like popular reviews of it are, just to sort of compare opinions and stuff. And I saw a review of it, which I think in Spanish. So it's rated half star. Don't see it; it's too scary. It's like, it's a horror film. What were you expecting?
Is that not the point?
Yeah, I mean, like, oh wow. I mean, I guess we've been wrong about horror all this time.
Too scary.
Half a star. At what point does a film become too scary? That it's that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, I mean, that's Insidious. I mean, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't rewatch it. I'm not gonna. Yeah, there's definitely good moments in it, but I don't think it's like. I would say it's like in terms of, so back to the debate about like modern horror. It's not in the same. It's definitely with the sort of those mainstream like aimed at teens. Boo It's just a bit more competent than usual, but it's still basically the same thing. It doesn't do enough to escape from that. So I'd still put it with that lot.